Everyone in front of me got free bread.
You want bread?
Yes, please.
$3! What? No soup for you.
On Thursday nights, a little New York apartment became a meeting place for the rest of us. From 1989 to 1998, beginning with a pilot called The Seinfeld Chronicles, and then continuing as a regular series from 1990, Seinfeld drifted across NBC like a quiet radio comedy. And then suddenly, it was everywhere. Not with big speeches, but with tiny human habits. Tonight we step behind the camera to 10 odd, true moments, the kind you only hear about when the lights go down. And the crew starts talking softly. Some are lucky accidents. Some are nervous compromises. All of them left fingerprints on what we still remember. Fact number 10, the day Kramer was not Kramer.
Yeah.
You up?
Yeah. Yeah.
People do move.
Have you ever seen the big trucks out on the street? Yeah, no problem.
Boy, the Mets blew it tonight, huh?
In the earliest hours of Seinfeld, before it was a Thursday ritual, the show still sounded like it was clearing its throat. The pilot moved differently. The room felt quieter, and even the neighbors were not finished becoming themselves. In that first episode, Jerry calls the man next door Kessler. Soon after, the writers settled on Kramer, and the audience never looked back. Years later, the show did something oddly tender. It quietly repaired the mismatch inside its own world. In a flashback during The Betrayal, Jerry mistakes Kramer's name as Kessler, because that is how it appears on the building buzzer, and Kramer corrects him. A tiny retcon, played like an old embarrassment you laugh at, then let go. It is Seinfeld in miniature. Even continuity gets a punchline, and then life continues through the wall. And speaking of names, the next story turns on a single word that took years to reveal. Fact number 9, the name they hid in plain sight.
Ma?
Cosmo!
Cosmo?
For 5 full seasons, Kramer was a man without a first name. The writers enjoyed the mystery, but NBC enjoyed something else, a promise they could tease. When the switch was coming, the network heavily promoted one small reveal as if it were a season finale. Larry David had quietly chosen Cosmo, a name he remembered from a boy in the same building he once shared with Kenny Kramer. But everyone feared a leak. So the production did something almost theatrical. Every script that went out replaced the name with simple X marks, so even a stray page could not spoil it. Then, on camera, Kramer's mother finally calls out, "Cosmo!" And the room reacts the way the audience had been trained to react, like a door opening after years of knocking. It is a reminder that even on a show about nothing, the smallest secret can become an event. Fact number 8, Elaine's dance came from a real room of adults. When Elaine Benz stumbles onto that dance floor, she does not look like a sitcom character trying to be funny. She looks like someone who truly believes she is doing fine. That is why it lands. The moves were not invented in a writer's room out of nowhere. The idea came from writer Spike Feresten, who drew on a real memory of watching Lorne Michaels dancing at a party, with total confidence and almost no rhythm, while Julia Louis-Dreyfus worked out the specific moves Elaine would do on set. On set, Louis-Dreyfus leaned into that idea, not to mock anyone, but to capture something human. The way grown-ups can be brilliant in one part of life and completely lost in another. The scene became a small classic because it is strangely gentle. Elaine is not punished for being awkward. She is simply, unmistakably herself. And the show never forgot what it had found, that the best comedy often comes from a real detail, carried quietly from a real room into a fictional one. Next, another real-world detail slips in, not through dancing, but through candy, and a camera trick you would never notice. Fact number 7, the junior mint that was not a junior mint.
Stop it.
On screen, it is a perfect little moment of carelessness. A single junior mint arcs through the air and disappears into a patient's open body, as if fate itself has a sweet tooth. But behind the camera, that tiny candy was too small for the lenses they were using. Director Tom Chironis later said the crew tried flipping the real thing again and again, and the camera simply could not hold it clearly. So they cheated gently. They swapped the candy for a larger York peppermint patty in the close-up, just to make the flight readable, then cut back to the box of Junior Mints in Kramer's hand so your mind would do the rest. It is the kind of practical illusion you only notice after someone tells you, and then you admire the craft. Even a show built on everyday truth still needed movie magic to sell a single second. Next, we stay with illusions, but this time it is not a prop, it is a voice, almost too soft to hear. Fact number 6, a voice that got replaced after you fell in love with it. Before Newman ever stepped into Jerry's hallway, he existed as a sound from the other side of the door. In The Revenge, you only hear him, a tense voice talking to Kramer about jumping off the roof.
I'm on the roof! Well, what are you waiting for?
That voice was not Wayne Knight, it was Larry David, recorded quickly because the role had been cut down late in the rewrite. In earlier drafts, Newman was meant to appear on screen, but the scene was trimmed away, leaving only a few lines, and David filled the gap himself, uncredited. Later, when Wayne Knight became Newman, the show faced a small continuity problem. Fans were about to meet a face that did not match the old voice. So, Knight went back and re-recorded those earlier lines for syndication, smoothing it over like paint on a crack. Some releases still preserve David's original track, which makes the moment feel like a ghost of the writer's room, hiding inside the finished show. Fact number 5, the holiday that was already waiting in one writer's living room.
Well, happy Festivus.
What is that? Is that the Paul?
George, Festivus is your heritage. It is part of who you are.
That's why I hate it.
When Frank Costanza announces Festivus, it feels like the show finally admits what it has been saying all along. The season can be exhausting, and we all feel it. But Festivus was not born on a soundstage. Writer Dan O'Keefe grew up with a family version, created by his father, Daniel O'Keefe Sr., and celebrated as early as 1966. It began as a private anniversary, then turned into a stubborn ritual, half sincere, half mischievous. One detail is almost too strange to invent. The original symbol was not an aluminum pole, it was a clock in a bag, nailed to the wall, sometimes in secret, then revealed with pride. The meaning was never explained, and that was the point. When the idea reached Seinfeld, the writers reshaped it for television. Dan O'Keefe later credited fellow writer Jeff Schaffer with suggesting the aluminum pole, clean, joyless, and perfect for Frank. Real life became a sitcom holiday, and then somehow it became real life again. Next, a story about an iconic prop that had to be guarded. Fact number 4, the missing wall Jerry took home. By the end of the series, Jerry's apartment felt less like a set, and more like a place you had visited for years. So when the cameras finally stopped, one piece did not go into storage. Jerry Seinfeld kept the apartment's front wall, the one you never see, the fourth wall that faced the studio audience and held framed pictures you only glimpsed at odd angles. It is a strangely intimate souvenir, not a prop you hold, but a boundary you stood behind. And it caused a small problem later. When parts of the set were rebuilt for the Seinfeld reunion on Curb Your Enthusiasm, Wayne Knight noticed something was wrong with the hallway door. It looked too clean. In real filming, Michael Richards kicked that door open so often, the bottom was scuffed with marks, like a private record of Kramer's entrances. The replica lacked those bruises, and the absence felt almost emotional, like a room that has forgotten its own history. Next, we move from what a set keeps to what standards and practices tried to remove, and how the writers found a way to say it anyway. Fact number 3, the word they could not say, and the phrase that saved it. In 1992, the writers brought NBC a story built on a single forbidden topic. Everyone in the room understood what the characters were doing, but the network did not want the word on prime time. Early drafts used masturbate, and the censors pushed back, so Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld did something smarter. They removed the word, then built an entire comic language around the silence. Master of My Domain became a ceremonial title, and the contest itself turned into a code phrase friends could repeat at work without blushing. The episode aired November 18th, 1992, and the audience laughed because the joke was not only the act, it was the careful dance around it. Reportedly, 9 of 10 scheduled advertisers pulled their ads before the episode aired. Yet the script still won Larry David an Emmy for writing, proving you could change television without saying the thing out loud. And next, we move from what was unsaid on air to something very real that changed how the show was made behind the scenes. Fact number 2, the table read that almost broke the four-person spell.
I can't take it.
Do me a personal favor.
No, I'm not
Take
comfortable.
the pen.
I cannot take it.
Take the pen.
Are you sure?
I'm positive. Take the pen.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. Gee, boy.
In 1991, the cast sat down for the table read of The Pen, an episode set in Florida with Jerry and Elaine, and without George or Kramer. It was the only time George vanished completely. The script was funny, the kind that would later feel essential. But Jason Alexander did not laugh. He felt a cold fear that the show was quietly moving on without him. According to accounts from the production, he pulled Larry David aside and asked to be released from his contract if he was going to be left out again, even if it was only for a single episode. David stood his ground, and the episode went forward. But the moment left a mark. Years later, Alexander admitted it came from insecurity, the worry that an ensemble can become a memory overnight. It is a startling thought that one absent week almost changed television history. And next, for fact number 1, we come to a decision that shaped the ending. Not in the story, but in the real lives of the people making it. Fact number 1, walking away while the room was still laughing. In December 1997, when the show was still on top, Jerry Seinfeld told NBC he wanted to stop after season 9. The timing mattered to him. He said it was the comedian's one true instrument. NBC tried to change his mind with an offer reported at $5 million per episode, more than $100 million for one more season. He still said no. He later explained that he was not married and had no children then, and he wanted a life that was not measured in taping schedules and Thursday nights. It is a strange kind of bravery to leave the party before the music turns. The finale arrived on May 14th, 1998, as a national event, the kind of broadcast that made the whole evening feel scheduled around a single half hour. The jokes did not run out. They simply chose to protect the feeling of the peak. And when a show is that beloved, even the decision to stop becomes part of its legend. Now, let's take a quiet breath and gather what these moments add up to. Some shows fade. This one simply ended, like a light switched off in a familiar room. And yet the room is still there. In the way we quote a line, or recognize ourselves in a petty complaint, or laugh at the strange tenderness of ordinary life. Seinfeld never asked to be important. It just kept noticing things, quietly, faithfully. And after all these years, that noticing still feels like company.